Hello everyone, and today we are gonna be making a railgun in from the depth. Now, as you can see, this game is a pretty complex engineering game. So what we wanna do is to first test our guns in creative mode before we go to adventure mode. So open designer, and like any normal minded person, you're gonna use mouse building mode, because who uses keyboard building mode? Like, that one takes 2 hours to place 2 blocks. So first thing you wanna do is to decide whether your turret is full mounted or deck mounted, which is really important because the whole layout changes. If you have a full mounted turret, hold on, let me not click what happened. So I'll go to my thing of save, and let's put a small testing hole. And by small testing hole I mean like a 1 kilometer long hole, because why not? That's my testing hole. So it can fit large stuff too, not just. Or I could go for a slightly smaller testing hole because I need a big one, and we are going to show how to make a compact one, so a smaller testing hole can be really good for that. So basically just load a hole and add a pump, because otherwise it's not gonna float. This pump is what sets which components are counted as hollow and airtight, not just hollow. Now, how to make a full mounted turret is easy. First, make a 5 block hole, 5 block long and 5 block wide, and however much, actually both dimensions, whatever you have the balls to, just more than 5. And then we go to sub object, and here we take a 5-meter turret. Now full mounted cannons, they have the disadvantage of, because they're made to be compact, you're not gonna use very large bullets for them. So we are going to use some simple 4-meter bullet layouts I've learned over the time. So the hull on this ship in particular is kind of very short, not tall. However, it's called when it's not a person, but it's not tall. But still, on any normal hull, this would kind of fit inside. And then you add the ammo intakes on top, cooling unit, and what the next thing you want, cooling, more cooling, because otherwise without cooling, how are you gonna cool down the cannon, and how are you gonna fire twice? You're only gonna fire once without cooling. So next thing, after we've made our questionable setup, we can put a firing piece and something wrong. Hold on. Easy fix. We just have to change the layout a little. Basically, a cross here, a turn here, and one on the left, because the cannon is symmetrical. Same for this place, and like this. And then we are going to use a 3-meter elevation, but actually it's a railgun 1 meter range elevation, man, that. And now we are going to add the magnet because yeah, it's a railgun, it needs magnet. Unlike other types of APS which don't need magnet. Now I've made a tiny mistake. I've placed the firing piece inside like it would be a normal APS because reflexes. I usually don't make railguns. And now let's build it again. So it's simple. And the magnet with the input node towards the firing piece, and then it's simple. Add the barrels. This is the perfect amount. So that actually there is no perfect amount. It all depends on how big you can go, because the bigger the better. The longer barrels are, the more railgun magnet they'll fit. Anyways, after that we add some railgun magnets because yeah, right on top of the magnet attacher. And then what we need is to have a little bit of railgun chargers because we need it to fire decently fast. You need at least one charger to make it fire at all, but if you just make it fire at all, it's gonna fire like really slow. So more chargers, the more the better. And then we just build an APS shell. So ammo controller, and because it's 4-meter autoloader, oh wait, it's a railgun. In a railgun, autoloaders can fit larger bullets than they are, so I can make an 8-meter bullet and fit it into a 4-meter autoloader. So yep, more gouging things like that. And then let's, yeah, it's a tiny mistake because when you make so many non-railgun APSs, it starts getting in your reflex to build every cannon like it's a non-railgun APS. Anyways, after that we are going to, wait, what the fuck? Why isn't it 500 millimeters? There's 8 gauge increases. The fuck you mean 6? Do I have dementia? I think I do. Anyways, ignore the very embarrassing mistakes I made for this cannon that I had to fix. Let's just add the railgun chargers back, and now it has 8 gauge increases, and we will build, because it's a railgun and these railguns are fully messed up, we are going to use a 6-meter long bullet in a 4-meter autoloader with the same wind as a normal bullet would be when it would be 8 meters. So yeah, doesn't make sense. That's how railguns are. So one thing you might wanna do is use solid bodies, because kinetic damage can be really devastating at the speed that the bullet travels at when it's in a railgun. Railguns are specifically designed for kinetic damage. And another thing you could do is put a hollow point cap so that it becomes impact damage, which ignores armor. Ignoring armor is a very useful thing. Anyways, for the cannon we are going to use, and how about 10,000 rail stuff, and we do this pistol doesn't have ammo. Okay. But yeah, good, enough ammo. And now let's see the stats. Something wrong. Something wrong. What can I say? Something wrong. Why isn't it using... I thought I said you should use rail draw. Why? Something wrong with this. It refuses to be a railgun. Holy fucking shit, even the game itself hates railgun. What is wrong? What is wrong there? APS, how do you make it a rail? Are you kidding me? Oh lord. Usually it would work, but now it refuses to be a railgun because, yeah. Why? I've never seen a single bug in this game before. What is the problem? Oh, found the problem. Best railguns I made, but in survival mode, because there's no purpose in building a railgun in creative mode when you can build a normal APS. But then I had batteries. Here I forgot to put them, and now that I put the batteries, 568 meters per second. Nah, bro. Nah, hell nah. That's actually slower than Italian vehicles. What? Actually, I make a lot of charge from what I think. Quite a lot of charge. So, if it is like that, I might just increase the charge a little. Just a little. So now it's 1056 meters per second. That's an insanely high speed for a bullet. Yep. Pretty good. And the expected thump damage for that, for how much rail round used per shot, $30,914. And here, what? 30,940, and that's gonna be 23,000 damage. A whole lot of damage. When you realize that armor has only 350 health. So yeah, it's gonna be really strong, and it might even penetrate the Great White, which is like the most unfair enemy in the game. Now we are gonna make the other layout, the deck mounted layout, for when you have too much space on your ship and you are not in survival mode trying to make something that can work on decent amount of resources, you're just going full on resource destroyer. And with infinite resources to spare, you might just use the horizontal layout, because that one's much better. And what you wanna do is to add key pipes like these. Oh wait, it's a railgun, it doesn't need cooling, I forgot. Why did I put oh yes, to make it a decent looking turret, that's why I put cooling on the other one. I made too much normal APSs, forgot how to do it. Anyways, you still need cooling units because they're basically connectors, but 6-way connectors work too, so that was cool. Fuck it. Anyways, just like initially, you add something to connect the rail charger. But the thing is, with this layout, you're not gonna treat it like a normal cannon layout. You're gonna have to treat it a little different, because this one will be not meant to be circular. This one will be square because more autoloaders, and you're gonna add the autoloaders horizontally because that's why it's called the horizontal layout. Next, add some of these. Everything seems okay till now, and maybe I could add a little bit more just because why the fuck not. And here we have a small bit of ammo intake. And it's pretty easy once you get the flow to put them, and then shit, hold on, we are gonna do the forbidden but the needed for railgun. Stick the cannon outside the firing piece. It's required for railguns, but if I see you doing it for a normal APS, what is wrong with you? Anyways, it's a simple fix here, yes. Actually it's not a fix, it's a necessity. I didn't do it wrong at all. Yeah, the lack of loop is different on my brain today. And you get the thing, add a bunch of barrels, because barrels are good. And because barrels have two effects. On a normal APS, they would help you for a better accuracy, because you don't wanna have a 90-degree cone of fire or something. Here on railguns, they're just so that you can add a bunch of railgun magnets on top of them, because you need railgun magnets. How else are you gonna make a railgun? It's literally based on the magnet. Damn. Such a good attitude today was. So, just like any deranged piece of shit who wants to make railguns instead of normal APS, you're gonna have to add some railgun chargers. So add a little bit of this, and after that you just add them on the other side too. simple, right? And then, hold on. That's why you need to set a high camera so that you can build efficiently. Anyways, just like for the other cannon, we are going to use the same bullet because it's a main construct bullet instead of adding the ammo designer on the turret like we usually do with normal APSs. Railguns are not that variable. You're most likely gonna make this gauge, this specific gauge and length. So just yeah, you can put the ammo thing on the main construct because not many things are gonna be this. Now we're gonna use just enough railgun shells so that it works, but actually I have more, and if I have more I'm gonna use more because more power, more food. And yep, that's gonna be quite a high amount of damage. 20 RPM is actually pretty good for a railgun, and only expected to reach like 60 RPM on a normal cannon and 3 RPM on a railgun, but it sounds actually decent speed, don't lie. Hold on a minute. Something wrong again. Something really wrong. And that thing, we placed the turret backwards. Holy shit. Ah yes, most normal mistake ever made. Just make a prefab and we'll fix it. This way we don't have to rebuild the whole turret. Because now we can just go boop, removed, and then add the sub object here. And holy shit, the first time I'll ever use and the last time I ever use keyboard building mode. Just don't use it. So we go for F3. Fuck. F3, F3, back to mouse building mode, because mouse building mode is just so much easier to use. Hopefully this time we place the turret right. Yes. And now we can save the turret because it's the first time I made a decent railgun since I don't make railguns. So sub object save. And the zing design. Okay, good. Now that we made this the zing design railgun, it's a goofy name for me. Let's test it on. Hold on. What should we test it? Well, I always test my weapons on Jacob's Folly, so let's test it. Jacob's Folly. And if it beats Jacob's Folly, it's worth it to be tested on the Brigand, which is the largest deep-water guard ship. So it does absolutely massive damage compared to a normal APS because, yeah, instead of having like 2 shell modules, the whole thing is shell and no blanks, which is a thing that makes railguns 10 million times better than normal APS, but they're so hard to build that I still prefer building the normal APSs. But the thing is, yeah, it's not just that, but yeah, the shell speed is insane compared to the average APS having like 850. Okay, now that we've built one for a ship, let's build one for a plane, because a plane can also be really efficient with APS. So just like we started normally, but the other way around. First we had the firing piece and then the rest. So 8 gouging crystals. And yep, even though this doesn't need cooling, for some reason autoloaders can't connect to connectors. I mean, they should be able, but yeah. So now we do the same thing. 4 meter loader for 6 meter bullet with the same gauge as an 8 meter one. Complete nonsense, but that's how this game works. Just build the autoloaders. As you can see, for a plane it's very different compared to how you do it for a ship, because for a ship you don't make the railgun long, you make it wide and tall. Here is the exact opposite. So after adding enough autoloaders to load a sewer Gustav in 2 seconds, and I'm still going to add the beat because yeah. After you do all that, you need to add the ammo intake just like normally. Shit. I hate railgun. You might have to redesign the entire cannon here by moving this thing a block. And after this, it's gonna be actually 2 blocks. And hold on. Okay. So just like usually, you need to add 1 ammo intake per autoloader, because that's the maximum efficiency layout. 1 autoloader takes the exact amount of RPM as 1 ammo intake. Except for the belt fed ones. The belt fed ones being 1 meter one that can take 2 intakes, but those you're not gonna use those for railgun. Railguns use 4 meter autoloaders with 6 meter long bullets. Completely wrong. Still. Once you've done this, you need to make sure that you have electricity, which on a plane is much worse than on a ship, because on a ship you can just add a big steam turbine, and it's exactly the same for the plane, but it needs to be compact since it's a plane, it's not as big as ship. Shit. Hold on. And just like usually, add railgun in this and then do that. And because this will have a much higher RPM, because usually you build the plane around the gun and not the gun around the plane. So yeah, the guns on planes very very big, and it has a shit ton of autoloaders, so you will need quite a bit of chargers to create the rail draw necessary for this to work. And it can get even longer if I want to. The longest one I made was like as long as that ship over there. So yeah, guns on planes can get really long, but yeah, you don't need to because it's a railgun. It doesn't need 5000 RPM like or does it? Maybe it does. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I'll still do the good old trick. And the good old trick, prefab. So remove this prefab from my site. Now we need a length of 8, a width of 5, and a height of 5. And the same, we're just gonna shape. Hold on, I have a better plan. Block opener, and we take it, and we do fuck. Just like the first one. Always me being so clumsy. And what the fuck? No, I have an idea. Let's put this here. But so I did need bump and it's a really easy trick to get me from my feet. 10 blocks long. And after that, there's the prefab, same but backwards. It's symmetrical anyway, so there's no problem with it being backwards. And after that, what you wanna do is to add the rail charger. So just like usually we are going to add some 6-way connectors, and we are going to add the rail chargers on top. And yes, I know every plane I make is huge. If you want the railgun on a plane, that's what I'm going to do. Something's wrong. A block's missing. This block would have ruined my entire video. And let's just add the rail charges. The more the better, because you can use more charge for one bullet and make it go even faster, dealing even higher kinetic damage. And as we've seen for our last railgun, it was already pretty insane. So if we add a big tube of chargers like this one, it should be absolutely overpowered. No, there is more autoloader, so it's gonna shoot faster and need more rail draw for the same powerful bullet, but it's not about powerful bullet, it's about powerful time, so if we make a bullet just as powerful as last time, but shoot twice as fast, the gun is twice as strong. So, just like I said quite a lot of time earlier, we're gonna add a steam turbine. So we go in for large boiler control, large boiler, and then the long turbine. And after we made the long turbine, I'm gonna add some batteries. And no, I'm not gonna add armor on this plane. It's way too big for me to have time to add armor, because this video is actually a school project of learning how to make a video. So yeah, it can't be. Actually, I have already made it way too long. So let's just go with the flow. And now we need materials, because well, yeah, there's gonna be a big ass jet engine that produces hundreds of millions of kilonewtons, and that's gonna consume a whole lot of fuel. And if you wonder why am I talking about fuel when placing ammo boxes, it's because the gun consumes ammo. The boiler consumes ammo and not fuel, which is pretty messed up. And the fuel consumption is usually very, very, very low. Like the biggest jet engine I ever made still didn't consume enough fuel to burn one single fuel tank this big of materials in enough time to get a good spike. Okay, so now we are going to go for the usual plane stuff. A bunch of combustors, because why not? Actually, it's not, because why not? Because the jet engine won't work without them. Actually, they're the jet engines themselves, and the other parts are just requirements to make these combustors work. And then this controller and a bunch of intakes, and 105,000 newtons, that's a lot. Enough power to power this plane. But why stop there when I can have more? That's what every Romanian politician said. Why stop at this much corruption when I can have more? Anyways, after that we are going to add a whole lot of combustors, even though that was already enough of them. If I want a decent speed, and for this game a decent speed is 100 meters per second, but I want 200 meters per second, because I want to go full kaboom and then be able to run away in case a great white, which can resist a 5 million kilometer missile, just comes right at me and shoots that exact 500 million kilometer missile right at me. So in case there's a great white, which is the most overpowered enemy in the entire game, I need to be ready with some good old hit and run. Actually, not even hit, just run. You ain't doing anything to the great white, it's invincible. I even added a nuclear missile mode just to fail at destroying the great white. Anyways, I'm like a normal person, I'm just like bit of a psychopath, so I make the turning thruster base, making it turn faster than I turn when I see a woman. Or pretty much anyone. I can tell. Holy shit. Anyways, let's add wings because it's a fucking plane and you need wings. Because it's a very strong gun, we are going to test this one against the biggest deep water guard ship. Yep, the Brigand is the biggest ship that is still fair, unlike the Great White, which is made out of modded alloy in the vanilla game or something, making it invincible. But anyways, let's add more wings. Actually no, not like this. Length matters, not width. And now, just like I said, we are going to use thruster turning. Because I'm the kind of psychopath that wants to turn rate so high that you are literally gonna die in 0.2 seconds because of the G-force. That's the turn rate I want. So, I'm going to go for the smaller jet engine. Let's just go like this and like this, and you'll see what I'm doing. So an intake here, and then intake here, and then also one here and one here. And let's not forget the exhaust, because the exhaust is really important to make the jet engine work. And then the same for the front. A controller here, one here, hold on, the opposite, like this. So we have a higher turn is pitching up than pitching down, because pitching up is more important than pitching down. In air-to-air fights at least. Shit, don't. Anyways, we are going to add the intake. Then on the opposite end, there is the exhaust. And now, it should be a very decent plane. But there's one thing missing. Roll axis. How am I gonna do that? Actually, it's pretty simple. Just use the same principle. Should we make the pitch push us up or push us? No, the roll, not the pitch. The roll push us up or push us down. Let's go to Google. So hold on. So now Google Gemini. Fuck. Anyways, we have the Google AI itself. So just dot, and then we go to AI mode. Why is it in Romanian? I'll translate it because Romanian. Oare la un avion from the dead? Pentru asta rol să împingă sus sau jos. Now we send it. What the fuck? We're gonna make them pitch up just because why not? And let's have it. Did I say pitch? I meant push. So they're gonna push upwards. Basically, if I roll right, you're gonna push the left side upward. If I roll left, the right side will go upward. Because thruster turning is always superior since thrusters are way stronger than air. And they are gonna make it turn faster, leading to a better handling, which can be the number one thing in dogfight. If you look at some historical dogfights, now they look like really good because the BF-109 had a very high turn rate compared to the boxers. Yes, their boxers not playing, but you remember how Germans had really good planes, but they were only really good because they had really good turning. Same principle goes for from the depth, just like in real life. Turning does everything if you aren't using missiles. If you are using missiles, then it's just about being brainless and making the missile that can kill without skill. But here, I'm using the rail. So, after we finish the plane for the railgun, we're just gonna return to the normal rate. So, and a bunch of, hold on, and a bunch of these, solid working body, solid working body, and come on again, and again, and then for the head, we are going to have still a hollow point head, and we are going to load every single autoloader on this cannon. 60 RPM is really good. So railgun draw, we are gonna go for 29,000. We need a bit more, just a tiny little bit more of these thinking about the railgun shot. So like any normal person, we are going to make the railgun have more of these. Or make it like the other railgun and make it have exactly the amount. Let's go for 20,000 because it's just a bit over RPM. Over 60 RPM. And it's still very good. Under 1,000 meters per second. Why are we making it a railgun if it's like that? Then the solution is to add more railgun charges. Yep, and the bead here, and the bead here, and the bead here, and you get it. Yes, and the railgun charge. Even though they are suffocating the wings. And if the center of mass dares to move, we are just gonna add a bit of mass in the rear. And how are we gonna do that? First of all, we need control. And then we are going to have stabilization, because an unstable joystick is something only Verstappen could control. So we are going to add some fixed non-pivoting rudders. It's a pivot, sorry. Some fixed non-pivoting rudders. Or are they rudders, or what are they called? So that our plane doesn't just go whoop the same way the Italian economy going whoop. So yep. After this we can increase the railgun charge a teeny tiny bit. Shit. Actually not shit, this is good. So we finished the railgun plane, and now we are gonna save this as hold on. Let's save this one as plane that is 2 towers. Okay, so now we can test it, and it flies good. Let's test the railgun. First we're gonna test it against the Copoli and then the Brigand. And then shbam, 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 shbam. Why is it a shotgun? It's only one shell, what's that? Am I getting shot at? Yes, I was. But this plane made for air-to-air fight. Anyways, let's test it against one really strong plane, the B-53. And zbam, you can see that the whole plane is turning because of the recoil of this, which is good. If it has this much recoil, and the recoil is just a fraction of what force it propels the projectile with, it's gonna be really strong. Why does it go shotgun? Why doesn't it just act normal? And here is where thruster turning makes it the best thing ever. Turn and continue, bam. We can aim good enough so that we hit the zone which causes big problems. Let's test it against 3 strikes. Actually no, we promised to test it against the brigand. Let's test it against the brigand, the largest fair enemy. And, oh shit! Using a plane against a boat with anti-air just has to die. It's just asking for that. Anyways, after we've made a railgun boat for a boat and for a plane, I think this is the whole railgun tutorial. Bye bye everyone. Long live the viewer.